Welcome to this episode. Have you subscribed yet? The Mystery of the Mountain Ghost's Marriage in Ghost Opera Yinshan, Records of the Nuo Mask and the Sunken Coffin. Chapter 5, The Soul, Summoning Drum Score in the Paper Making Shop. The night in Yinshan village seemed to be soaked in ink. Su Wanyan's rubber-soled shoes trod on the blue stones, crushing the damp pagoda tree sawdust underfoot. Chun Shizi's paper making shop hunkered at the end of the alley. The copper ring on the wooden door was covered with cobwebs, and the faded plaque Mountain Pagoda Paper Crafts on the lintel swayed gently in the wind, making an almost inaudible creaking sound. The moment he pushed open the door, a smell of mold and pine resin hit him. In the center of the main room stood 7 half-height paper figures. The cuffs of their indigo coarse cloth shirts were neatly folded up, revealing the dark blue pagoda wood birthmarks on their wrists, exactly the same as the mark on Su Wanyan's left ring finger. The eye sockets of the paper figures were hollow, and half a piece of river lantern paper tinged with the unique dark red of the Yinshui River was stuck between the fingers of one of them. Only half of the wick remained in the soul, summoning lamp on the offering table. The bean-sized flame cast distorted shadows on the wall. The beam of Su Wanyan's flashlight swept across the mottled wall, and a corner of the faded Nuo opera drum score emerged from where the wall skin had peeled off. The ink marks glistened with a moist dark red in the moonlight, as if freshly written with blood. As soon as his fingers touched the edge of the drum score, the paper suddenly made a faint pop sound. A splinter of wood shot out from the yellowed paper grain and pierced his fingertip. Blood beads rolled down and seeped into the center of the pattern depicting twin coffin shapes. The originally blurred incantation instantly became clear. When the twin fiends appear, one drumbeat opens the underworld. The left eye bears the curse, the right eye is sacrificed to the river. The drum score was outlined with cinnabar, showing a topographic map of Yinshan. 3 ring-shaped mountain ranges formed a coffin-like shape, and the Yinshui River in the middle was marked like a red blood vessel. 19 stone coffins were blocked in the center of the river like blood clots. Uncle Chen ... double quotes. Su Wanyan called out in a low voice, and the sound bounced back from the paper figures. A creaking sound of wooden boards came from the attic, as if someone with a lame leg was walking. He tightly grasped the half-Nuo opera mask left by his mother and stepped onto the creaking staircase. The smell of mold became even stronger. In the center of a cobweb at the corner was stuck a piece of faded red, wedding, dress fabric, exactly the same as the sacrificial clothing in the mountain ghost's marriage ceremony. The attic was piled with unfinished paper crafts. The most eye-catching one was a paper figure in a red wedding dress. Its framework had been made, but its face was blank. A silver bracelet was pinned to the chest of the paper figure. It was a relic of Su Wanyan's mother, Su Xunyang, and the character Wang engraved on the inner side of the bracelet was polished shiny. He suddenly remembered that when Chen Xiaozi was laid to rest, this silver bracelet was placed over the old man's eye socket, replacing the gouged out left eye. The cowhide account book in the drawer was covered with mold spots. On the account page of 1937, the item, Expenses of the Nuo Opera Troupe, was abruptly circled in red, and the words Twin Fiends were written inside. The ink was blurred by water stains, and the small characters beside it could be faintly discerned. Yunyang's birth date matches that of the river god. Xunyang is willing to substitute, and the souls are separated with a blood contract. The words blood contract were heavily circled, and below was drawn a broken umbilical cord with 2 overlapping coffin shapes connected at both ends. Half a theater ticket fell out from the jiaceng of the account book. On the yellowed paper, the words Autumn Equinox, 1937, Mountain God Temple were clearly visible. The seat number 19 was circled in red, and the ticket inspector's signature in the lower right corner was Lin Wanshan, the name of the current village head. Su Wanyan's temples throbbed. He remembered Chen Xiaozi's repeated admonition, "Don't touch the bride's red," before his death. At this moment, a faint pagoda tree fragrance seeped from the cuffs of the red wedding dress paper figure, exactly the same as the smell in his mother's coffin in his memory. Suddenly, the soul-summoning lamp poofed and lit up. The faint blue flame revealed the ghostly image of Chen Xiaozi. The old man leaned on a pagoda wood crutch, with dark, red tears streaming from his single eye, and the silver bracelet in the other eye socket glimmered faintly. The river, God sacrifice in 1937. It was supposed to be Yun Yang as the sacrifice ... The voice of the ghostly image seemed to come from the bottom of a well. The crutch scratched a charred mark on the ground, forming the characters Luo Men. Lin Wanshan knelt under the mountain god pagoda tree and exchanged 10 years of his life for his daughters. Your mother was pregnant at that time and was willing to use your soul ... Before he could finish, the ghostly image suddenly distorted and turned into countless pagoda tree sawdust that rustled to the ground. Su Wanyan bent down to pick them up, but the sawdust gathered into a small coffin shape in his palm, with his birth date engraved on the coffin lid. The memorial tablet of Chen Xiaozi on the offering table suddenly shook violently, fell to the ground with a clang, and on the back was revealed a map of Yinshan drawn with red sand. The center of the river was marked Twin Fiends Key, and the arrow pointed straight to the paper making shop where he was standing at the moment. In the camphor wood box in the corner, a Nuo opera drumstick stained with blood lay quietly. The handle of the drumstick was engraved with 3 ancient characters, "Break the 1,000 hands," and between the strokes were embedded dark, red sand grains, exactly the same as the sediment at the bottom of the Yinshui River. The moment Su Wangyan grasped the drumstick, the ligneous birthmark on his left ring finger suddenly became hot, and like a living thing, crawled towards his palm. Fragmented images flashed before his eyes. His mother, Su Hinyang, was lying in the stone coffin, with the river god incantation wrapped around her abdomen. Chen Xiaozi, wearing a bamboo hat, stood beside the sacrificial altar, and a section of the same birthmark was exposed from his cuff. The drum score automatically turned pages in the blue light of the soul summoning lamp. The words "Twin Fiends can substitute" at the torn corner of page 19 were particularly eye-catching. Small characters were engraved beside it with a fingernail. 1 substitution, 1 death. 1 survival, 1 extinction. The river god's vein opens, and 1,000 hands open their eyes. Su Wangyan's gaze fell on the blank face of the paper figure. He suddenly noticed that the skeletal structure of each paper figure was different from that of a human. Their vertebrae were spiral-shaped, and at the end of the tailbone was engraved the same pattern as on the river god stele. Suddenly, a gloomy wind blew outside the window. The branches and leaves of the mountain god pagoda tree slapped the window lattice frantically, and the tree shadow cast a 1,000-hand shape on the drum score. Su Wanyan saw that the twin coffin shapes in the center of the drum score were absorbing his blood. The coffin lid slowly opened, revealing 2 overlapping figures inside. One was a girl in a red wedding dress, with a coffin-shaped birthmark glowing on the back of her neck. The other was a baby in swaddling clothes, with the left ring finger shining with a ligneous luster. When the drumstick struck the soul summoning drum on the offering table, with the deep dong sound, 19 old clocks in the whole village roared simultaneously. Su Wanyan saw that blood oozed from the eye sockets of the paper figures, drawing the direction of the river god's vein on the ground. And the ghostly image of Chen Xiaozi emerged again. This time, he was holding a burning account book in his hand, and the firelight illuminated the last line of words. Dragon Boat Festival, 2023, the Twin Fiends return, and the left hand of the 1,000 hands moves. With each drumbeat, a sound of a coffin lid rubbing came from the direction of the river bottom. When Su Wanyan counted to the 19th sound, the floor of the paper-making shop suddenly shook, and dark red river water seeped out from the cracks in the bricks. On the water surface was reflected the image of 19 stone coffins breaking through the water. Inside each coffin sat himself wearing a Nuo mask. The human teeth embedded in the eye sockets of the mask were gnawing at the coffin lid, making a creaking sound. The flame of the soul summoning lamp suddenly shot up, illuminating the hidden pattern at the bottom of the drum score. It was an ancient mural of Nuwa, cutting off the 1,000 hands with a Nuo opera mask. The blood beads splashed from the broken parts of the 1,000 hands, each transformed into a stone coffin, and in the center of the group of stone coffins was the overlapping silhouette of Su Wanyan and Lin Yunyang. Su Wanyan dug his fingernails deep into his palm and finally understood why Chun Xiazi always coughed up fragments of river lanterns. Those were memory fragments of the previous human pillars. At this moment, the three characters break the 1,000 hands on the drumstick were absorbing his blood, and the ligneous birthmark had spread to his forearm, resembling the pattern of the bark of the mountain god pagoda tree. Brother Wang Yan ... double quotes. Lin Yunyang's call came from downstairs, her voice trembling unusually. Su Wanyan looked down and found that the face of the red wedding dress paper figure had somehow taken shape. It was a face exactly like his, but with an eerie smile that didn't belong to him. The drum score flipped to the last page in the wind, and on the blank space was written in blood, "When the soul summoning drum stops, the twin fiends are born." Outside the window, the face of the mountain god pagoda tree suddenly opened its mouth, showing the same smile as the paper figure. The red tree sap oozing from the tree trunk formed the character's return on the ground. Su Wanyan tightened his grip on the drumstick and heard his violent heartbeat gradually synchronize with the vibration of the stone coffins at the river bottom, as if the entire Yinshan village was counting down for this sacrifice that spanned 86 years. The end of this episode. The story continues. Subscribe now.